One wrong move and your entire channel could be demonetized, deleted, or you could even get sued.
I had a client who got 3 strikes and he lost his channel. He doesn't even really want his channel back. He just wants his videos back.
Kept getting blocked videos. I would spend a lot of time working on a reaction or working on like a breakdown video, and then I would put it out there and it would get blocked, and then I'm just kind of screwed. I just can't do anything with it.
Christian warriors, set yourselves apart from this corrupt generation. Be saints. That is the freedom that I wish for you. Freedom from sin. Freedom from our weaknesses. Freedom from the slavery that sin makes out of all of us. That is the freedom that is worth dying for. Kind of reminds me of the words that Mel Gibson first intoned in his Academy Award-winning film Braveheart, when he said to his ragtag army, and I say to you tonight, I see before me a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny. You've come to fight as free men, and free men you are. What will you do without freedom? Will you fight? No! Yep, fight, you may die. Run and you'll live. Or at least a while. Dying in your beds many years from now, would you have been willing to trade all the years from this day to that for one chance? Just one chance to come back here and tell our enemies that you can take our lives, you can never take our freedom. Every man dies. Not every man truly lives. You, we must fight for that authentic freedom and live, my friend. By God, we must live. And with the Holy Spirit as your shield and Christ as your sword, may you join Saint Michael and all the angels in defending God and sending Lucifer and his henchmen straight right back to hell where they belong. Storm is upon us.
We're not free because we have this new social media censorship. You concerned about that? Have you been demonetized or your stuff cut off?
I got RFK Jr. on the air for 4 hours. He'd been kicked off of all these platforms. He's had a million things demonetized and censored.
Censorship.
Censorship. Censorship.
Censorship. Censorship.
Censorship. It's a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40 years.
Your freedom of speech is under attack like never before. Social media giants, they have unrivaled power to influence the narrative like never before.
Don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple. Just like dominoes, one by one, they'll go down.
When you're in a war, and I mean that we are in an ideological war, we really are, and we are at a potential tipping point in this country. You need different kinds of people. You need different battalions. And I get it that some people want to work within the platforms in order to change the platforms. But the issue is when the platform no longer allows you to speak truth.
Any of those, so any of the major social media sites, you got the President of the United States, you got the universities, educational program, or mainstream media in order, okay? Who has the most power? So number one, was billionaires, richest, like you got Bezos, you got Musk, you got guys like that. Then it's the virtual governments, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google. Then you got our educational system, universities. Then you got the president of the United States, and you have mainstream media. Who has the most power today, in your opinion?
I think right now, the most power to control the narrative is, without doubt, these virtual governments.
I agree.
Dear Mr. President, there is a war raging, not one with bullets or bombs, but algorithms and silence. Censorship on social media has become the invisible tyrant of our time. It is not only stifling truth, it is suffocating the very soul of our republic. This documentary is titled Dear Mr. President because we needed to reach you urgently. By the grace of God, may this message pierce the digital iron curtain and land in the hands of the man who knows how to fight and how to win.
So I can follow my conscience and then I'll die. But I can lie and I can live. And people will do anything to survive. They'll survive at any price. The question is this: what is your price? Because if your price is not your life, then you are for sale.
Dear Mr. President didn't start as a documentary. It started as a letter to President Trump. A letter I planned to record as an audio, hoping that one or both versions would land on his desk. That's it. Then something happened. On a Monday live show with our co-host, the idea caught fire. Everyone had input. Everyone felt it. It wasn't just a letter anymore. It was a mission. And that mission quickly grew into a documentary. Now, let me be blunt. I've never done a documentary in my life. This was my first. Worst case scenario, I humiliate myself on a grand scale. I didn't care because failure was never part of the option. I don't even think in those terms. I'm not wired that way. I charge forward as if I already won. So I started to reach out to the biggest podcasters I know, and I know quite a few. I would love to tell you that they all stepped up. They didn't. Most of them sat on the sidelines. Maybe they didn't want to take a chance on Mel Carmine, the new guy in the documentary arena, or maybe, just maybe, there was a little bit of jealousy involved. Charisma is a dangerous thing in insecure rooms. But I hold no grudges. I fight even for the ones that ghosted me. Big podcasters, small podcasters, it doesn't matter. I'm fighting for all of them because this isn't about Mel Carmine. This is about free speech. This is about the war on free speech. That's why the film is free. We're not charging a dime. We want it to grow legs so that no one can accuse us of a cash grab. I've heard it over and over again throughout this journey. We need an internet bill of rights. And every time I heard it, something inside of me screamed and said, why? Why do we need that? We already have one. It's called the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, written in ink, not suggestions. Why would we rewrite our rights to placate tech tyrants who think they're above the law? Why would we kneel before Silicon Valley, especially now with Donald J. Trump in a position to use one pen stroke and it's over? A man who knows damn well how to lead. What we need isn't new parchment. We need real enforcement. We need an addendum to the First Amendment for digital platforms, a powerful executive order with 1,000% flexibility to go after any and all guilty parties, plain and simple. If a platform infringes on free speech, that's strike one. By strike two, they face obliterating fines. And if they still don't comply, let them be replaced. The Trumps know plenty of programmers. We can take over their platforms, level the field, remove the censorship chokehold, and restore full spectrum free speech. No more speed bumps, no more blacklists, no more algorithmic gags. Let the truth speak. Because when it does, mainstream media won't stand a chance. They'll be like a rat in a cage fight with King Kong. Now let's talk about what's lurking in the basement. We know there's potential collusion, yes. Possibly from a very small portion of the military-industrial complex. Puppet masters behind mannequins like Zuckerberg, Mohan, and Mosseri. If that turns out to be true, and we discover factions of our U.S. intelligence hands twisted these CEOs into silencing Americans, let me be clear, that is treason. You know what the penalty is. You don't need me to spell it out. But know this, if that's what's going on, we will not whisper. We will yell, loud, clear, 117 times a day. And the mannequins, they'll be right there beside you when justice comes. Facing the wall, let me remind the spoiled tech elite of something else. America is not just a market, it's a privilege. Everybody wants in because we're still the richest, most powerful nation on earth. And you social media oligarchs forgot who the boss is. You've gotten away with it for too long. But now we've got Trump, and hopefully soon we'll have Eric Trump too, who I trust is sharp enough to carry the torch. And when needed, he can call the Don for counsel while Dad's on the golf course shooting a bogey on hole 17.
Think Joe Biden can do that?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But make no mistake, this ends now. I speak on behalf of hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of podcasters who've been muted, shadow banned, and digitally erased. They want to speak. They deserve to speak. This film had to be made. There was no other path. Yes, I know the risks. I know what I'm stepping into. But I also know this. If we don't win, we lose everything. And if we lose, communism and Marxism will swallow this country faster than a shot of bourbon in a bar fight. Some podcasters are still asleep, clinging to their little crumbs from YouTube and Spotify. They think they're safe. But the truth is, when the trapdoor opens, those crumbs go with it. They don't see the future, but we do. And we're here to rip the muzzle off truth once and for all. This is our stand. This is our moment. And this time, we fight with the Constitution in one hand and the microphone in the other. My name is Mel Carmine. This is the story from an idea of writing a letter to the president that became a full documentary. Keep listening. It's about to get interesting.
The real war's here with the globalists and Soros and Obama and the New World Order and BlackRock. They've declared war on us, and we accept the challenge. We're taking the country back. Amen. 1776. The answer to 1984 is 1776. 1776. Right, it began right here. 1776. 1776.
So the bottom line is this. Am I asking Donald J. Trump to change the Constitution or the First Amendment? Yes, because there was no way for our forefathers to foresee this massive technological advancement. The Constitution, while it was brilliantly written, isn't flawless. The First Amendment needs to be updated, written into enforceable law, and backed by an ironclad Bill of Rights to ensure it's never tampered with ever again, reinforcing the new improved First Amendment. In the United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where the ink of the Constitution flowed with the promise. Say of liberty in the First Amendment, enshrine the right to speak, there lurks a shadow, a subtle yet sinister force that threatens the very foundation of our republic. This is the story of censorship, a battle fought not with swords but with words, algorithms, and power. It's the tale of an invisible hand that has, for generations, sought to silence dissent, suppress creativity, and obscure truth. It's a story of media censorship in America, quieter, sneakier than the bands of old, woven into the fabric of our digital age, shaping what we see, hear, and believe.
A world without censorship would mean we can freely expose the elections and, of course, child trafficking. I believe the American spirit would kick in if they had access to the real information, and therefore we would eliminate these problems and take our country back.
History is full of examples of people in power trying to restrict access to certain material, whether it's literature, journalism, music websites, or some other supposedly inappropriate or dangerous content, as long as there has been a difference of opinion. There have been attempts to suppress those deemed antagonistic towards the status quo. The execution of Socrates, the burning of Mayan books by Spanish bishops, Cambridge's banning of Darwin's Origin of Species, book burnings in Nazi Germany, all instances of those in positions of authority attempting to suppress access to knowledge and dissenting opinion. And the practice continues to this day, both in the open and covertly.
Dear Mr. President, my name is Gary Franchi. I'm the founder of the Next News Network, one of the largest independent conservative channels on YouTube. On February 25th, 2023, YouTube demonetized my entire channel. No warning, no explanation. I filed appeal after appeal, rejected every single time. And for 20 months, I watched my business bleed, my team shrink, and my family suffer. I sold personal assets. We emptied our savings. I built this network from scratch, and big tech tried to destroy it with a keystroke because I dared to speak the truth. And they only reversed course when the Texas Senate got involved. That's what it took. Mr. President, if states have to do the job of defending the First Amendment, then what the hell is Washington waiting for? We need federal protection for independent voices before it's too late.
Dear Mr. President, this is Joe Rosati from TruthStream, and this tape represents what it's been like to get our message out to the world. We've had channels taken down from nearly every form of social media. We knew when you uttered the term fake news that you were up to something different. We're honored to contribute to this documentary on censorship as we've lived it for the last few years. I've also had music videos taken down, which is equivalent to income being stolen.
If you were asked to name an instance of modern-day censorship, the first example that would probably come to mind is China's intense curation of the internet in their country. According to most experts, China's censorship is the most sophisticated and comprehensive in the world, with severe restrictions placed on both publishing and accessing certain content. The Chinese government strictly monitors and polices internet activity and are quick to remove content deemed objectionable. This tendency has earned their policy the nickname the Great Firewall of China. But China isn't the only country engaging in suppression of information. In fact, most governments are engaged in some form of censorship over the internet in their respective countries. What is censorship? Before going any further, let's get a Gina or Al understanding of what censorship is and what it entails.
First, let's define censorship. What is it? In broad terms, censorship occurs when individuals, groups, or government officials decide that certain images, information, or ideas are so objectionable that no one should have access to them. This so-called offensive content can be found in books, magazines, films, videos, or works of art. Censorers succeed when the materials are edited, restricted to particular audiences, or removed from public access, no matter if that access is at a library, school, bookstore, art gallery, or other institution. You might have an idea in your head about who attempts censorship, but individuals who try to censor materials come from a variety of backgrounds and have many different viewpoints. Censorship attempts often get rationalized because the censoring party thinks that there is a clear distinction between something that is good and morally uplifting and something that is wrong and morally corrupting. They believe that their actions will prevent other people from being negatively influenced. But can you think of any instance where things were really that cut and dry? Arguments can be made for and against the value of any piece of media, and it's doubtful that there's anything that 100% of people would agree is 100% good or bad. Is censorship really something that is still happening now? In the United States? Yes. All the time. What about the First Amendment? Doesn't that make censorship illegal? Actually, no. The First Amendment states that Congress cannot make laws that limit free speech. Many different Supreme Court cases have established that government censorship is a violation of the First Amendment, but also that not all speech is considered free speech. Things like obscenity and fighting words, or speech that incites violence or harm, are not protected. However, it is increasingly non-governmental institutions and private companies that are making decisions about censorship and what can and cannot have an accessible platform. For example, if you listen to the radio, you're probably exposed to censorship on a daily basis. Many commercial radio stations play edited versions of songs that remove curse words, references to sex or drugs. In late 2018, social networking site Tumblr banned all adult content. As a private company, they can decide what their platform allows, but their policy still led to widespread censorship. And the transition showed how hard it is to enforce such a broad and hard-to-define ban, as some of Tumblr's own examples of content that was still permitted were hidden after its filtering system automatically flagged them as adult.
Dear Mr. President, my name is Elisa Valentino, known as Elisa V. Today, I implore you to help end the censorship that began in 2020 and still silences independent voices like mine. Truth tellers and new media podcasters deserve to be heard. Thank you, and God bless you.
That promise freedom, the fear of undesirable ideas, has long led to the clamping down of voices that dared to challenge the status quo. From the Cold War paranoia of the 1950s to the social unrest of the 1960s and into the internet age of today, the fight for free speech has been a constant. Books were banned, films suppressed, and music censored, all in the name of protecting a public morality. Orson Welles' Citizen Kane was targeted for its portrayal of corruption, The Grapes of Wrath for its gritty realism, and A Clockwork Orange for its raw depiction of violence. These works of art were deemed too real, too subversive, too inconvenient. They proved a simple truth. Art often reveals realities that make the powerful uncomfortable, and truth is not always welcome. But who gets to decide what's acceptable? What happens when those in power label your words dangerous, your thoughts too radical, your truth a threat? The battle has evolved. Once, censorship was a domain of the government, with its Pentagon propaganda machine and the FCC's regulatory powers. Today, the censors are private corporations.
Our First Amendment is under assault, not just by big tech, but by government agencies colluding behind closed doors. Voices are being silenced. Platforms are shut down, and dissent is labeled as misinformation. This isn't freedom. It's tyranny dressed in algorithms.
Dear Mr. President, my name is Trennis Evans, and I want to thank you for the courageous pardons of January 6th, those that were affected by that, my 1,600 fellow Americans and myself, that were destroyed by the jackbooted thuggery of the Biden administration and the wayward FBI and a DOJ who meant to persecute, not prosecute, to destroy Christians and conservatives and those that would stand and say something about a stolen election. This was part of the censorship industrial complex that operates within these United States because they mean to serve a purpose, and it's inconsistent with what we, the people, should have as free voices in our First Amendment. Thank you for continuing to fight back against this and open up our voices to the American people. It must be done, and it must be done courageously, and you're the man for the job, sir. We put you in that place. It's time to burn the boats. There's no turning back from this place. We must move forward. Bold and courageous action, sir. Keep it up.
Tech giants like Facebook, Google, YouTube, and Twitter, who hold the keys to the digital realm.
Today, we have a corporatocracy ran by an oligarchy controlling America and the world. We have a uniparty Congress that sits idly by while the corporatocracy violates every constitutional right of the American people through censorship and other means, all the way through to deplatforming, all for telling the truth and being accurate. Meanwhile, Congress and politicians advocate for more censorship. It's time this stops, and these politicians and corporations are held accountable for treason to the American people. Mr. President, it's time you step in and do something.
Senator Josh Hawley's exposure of Meta and Google as alleged collaborators in censorship, particularly through the April 2025 Senate hearing featuring Sarah Wynne Williams, provides a striking example of big tech's potential to control public opinion. The whistleblower's testimony about Meta's ties to the CCP, combined with Hawley's broader accusations of election-related censorship, paints a troubling picture of corporate power undermining free speech and democratic integrity. While the evidence requires further corroboration and some claims lack specificity, the allegations highlight the urgent need for oversight of tech giants' content moderation practices. As public discourse increasingly unfolds on digital platforms, ensuring that these spaces remain open and transparent is critical to preserving the democratic promise of free expression. Hawley's efforts, though polarizing, have sparked a necessary conversation about the balance between corporate influence and individual rights in the digital age.
Let's take a look here at something that Facebook, Meta, whatever, something that they've said, Mark Zuckerberg in particular said, it was reported in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured this is Zuckerberg speaking, pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take the content down. Now, the point that I want to get at, and maybe I'll start with you, Ms. Hemingway, because you and your outlet were a target of a lot of this and were censored left, right, center. You personally were censored. Don't you think that Facebook needs to be held accountable for their role in all of this? I mean, so Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg says, oh, you know, gosh, they were so mean to us, the Biden people, they threatened us, and they did. Biden did. Was that unconstitutional? I think it was. This is why that Supreme Court case that we've been talking about today, the Missouri case, is so significant. But isn't it also true that, as Zuckerberg himself says in the statement, it was their decision, they owned it, and truthfully, Facebook and others have a pattern of censoring long before this, the Hunter Biden laptop story. They gleefully, willfully censored on their own. They have been avid participants in this censorship campaign. Would you agree with that, Ms. Hemingway?
Yes. Mark Zuckerberg, who spent nearly $450 million in the 2020 election to control the outcome there, has recently done a few little things like saying, oh, I was sort of pressured to do this censorship, or, oh, I'll give $1 million to the inauguration committee, as if this in any way makes up for the campaign of censorship that he was engaged in, which was probably valued even more than the money he gave to the election, to censor and silence voices like mine and my publication because we said things on all sorts of topics that were at odds with what he wanted, whether that's the radical trans agenda, how elections should be run, how to respond to the COVID pandemic, all sorts of topics where in a free society you should have free and open debate. And he worked very hard to keep that from happening. So I find these statements kind of interesting, but they nowhere near deal with the agency that he had on this and how much power he has as the head of Facebook.
Yeah, I'm glad you just used the word power, because that's a big part of this story, isn't it? Companies like Facebook, Meta, have enormous structural power that Mark Zuckerberg has spent, to your point, he has spent billions of dollars amassing. He has worked to destroy competitors who might break that power up, challenge that power in any way. He has used that power to stifle competition. He's used it to stifle views he doesn't like. This is a textbook example of what happens when a monopoly that has a political agenda, in this case a very hard-edged political agenda for years, when they use that monopoly in order to try to control other competitors and also to try to control the information that flows to the American people. Do I have that right, do you think?
Yes, and the political system itself, which has had previously been so supportive of him, and the work that he did to silence, again, not just in the election sphere, but those journalistic voices that were countering his preferred policy objective.
This is just terrific, and you are perfectly placed to talk about that and to bring this to light. I think it's so vital that we don't lose sight of the role that these massive companies, and there's just a few of them. I mean, it's Google, it's Meta, that the control that they have amassed and that they have used to try and dictate, frankly, what Americans can see. And we know in the case of Google, we've had testimony in this committee and subcommittees before, Google has rigged their search results to try and influence independent voters and try to sway elections for years, and not just in this country. They've done it in other countries. They've done it in Australia. These are massive monopoly corporations that have political agendas that have been using their market power to try and influence. Actually, that's not strong enough to try and control outcomes in our political system. That is a problem. And I would just submit, until we deal with their power, this problem is going to persist. Thank you all for being here. Mr. Chairman, thank you for having this great hearing.
The internet, heralded as a free frontier with the passage of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act in 1996, gave platforms a blank check to moderate or censor as they please.
Mr. President, State Senator Mark Fincham here. I know that you recognize the existential threat that social media has become, especially since it is now heavily censored and has been since early 2016. Sir, both of us have been victims of this censorship, and I really hope that in the days to come, you will consider treating social media outlets as the utilities that they have become. That's the best thing you could do to end censorship and force these social media outfits to become better citizens in the corporate world. I ask for your help here. Thank you, Mr. President.
Hi, Mr. President. My name is Mike Barra. I am a podcaster, a researcher of independent information, scientific information. The censorship on the internet around the world is out of control. It is so far out of control. It's definitely something that has to be done. The reality is that anybody with a different opinion, anybody who has information that is contradictory to the establishment orthodoxy set up by the media and the judges and the politicians has no voice. Things are slightly better than they were a few years ago, but we have no voice. We're stifled. And now that information is suppressed. You're not allowed to get the word out. And those of us who actually are trying to tell the truth are not allowed to do so.
Dear President Trump, my name is Jim Gale. I'm the founder and CEO of Food Forest Abundance and OriginsReclaimed.org. And we like to shine a light on the solutions to mass extinction and deforestation and cancer, diabetes and heart disease and tyranny and war. And we are being censored. Stop it, brother.
Dear President Trump, this has got to stop on censorship. And I can tell you, USS Liberty Survivors knows more about censorship than most. We've been censors all of our lives. So to you, sir, Mr. President, keep America strong, keep a republic strong by telling the truth of what happened to the USS Liberty. And we cannot have censorship anymore, sir. Please do it for America. America deserves the truth. The republic needs to stand together as one. God bless America.
These companies now decide which voices reach the public and which are buried beneath algorithmic filters.
Censorship is still going on. We need these people that are in charge of this and the ones that represent we the people in Congress to be held accountable. It's not right that the censorship is still going on, and we need accountability.
I have only one thing to ask. I just only want to see some accountability from somebody. Just pull that pin and throw that grenade already, buddy. That's all every American wants to see, is just some accountability for the crimes against us all.
Dear Mr. President, my name is Carol Maureen Friesen. I have been teaching psychosomatic therapy for the last 25 years. And I had groups on Facebook and Instagram. They were all taken down on October 15th, 2020. And we need to get our word out there as concerned world citizens.
Dear Mr. President, Patriot Underground here, a massive supporter of yours. Now, when I began my journey podcasting in the aftermath of the stolen election of 2020, I experienced a massive level of censorship that obviously has had a direct impact not only on my fundamental First Amendment rights, but also on the proliferation of truthful information, which is no doubt an issue that is near and dear to your heart. So today I am asking you to take action to finally end social media censorship and to thank you for all you've done for our amazing country. God bless you, sir.
And things have gotten really bad over here on YouTube in the past week. I mean, they were never great, but now they've gone off the deep end. Of the past 5 episodes we've made, 3 have been demonetized and or age restricted. First, this episode about the fight over who has control over kids, parents or the state. Now, YouTube demonetized it. No appeals. Why? Well, the reason they gave me was because the thumbnail depicted child or sexual abuse. Now that offends me, because this image is based on this actual photo from the Associated Press. This depicts child or sexual abuse? What is YouTube insinuating about our beloved president? I'll have you know, YouTube, that the New York Times once did an investigation and found no pattern of sexual misconduct by Biden, beyond hugs, kisses, and touching that women previously said made them uncomfortable. So suggesting that this image is somehow showing Biden abusing a girl is ridiculous. Then there was this episode I did about the riots in France. It was one of our most popular recent episodes. Wow, views are 2.6 times higher than usual. Then it was suddenly age restricted. That kills the viewership. You can see exactly where that happened when the views flattened. Basically, if you aren't logged into YouTube, you can't watch it. And if you are, you have to click on this permission screen. But the episode didn't have graphic or violent imagery, unless you count burning buildings. And if you do, how do you cover a riot? Like this? riots exploded around the country. Or maybe like this. Now, all this has happened before. I'm used to getting censored by YouTube. But this time, YouTube went too far. Even further than too far. Because YouTube is now censoring you.
The Twitter files revealed that government organizations such as the FBI worked closely with social media giants Meta and Twitter to censor a New York Post article that aired allegations regarding the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop. The article was labeled as misinformation as links to share it were blocked.
I agree. I think the Hunter Biden laptop story really is so emblematic of all the problems that we have with the press over the last few years that started maybe with the election of Donald Trump in 2016, shocked the media system because they didn't know anyone who would possibly vote for Donald Trump. But it continued more into what we've seen since then, which I think the Hunter Biden laptop story showed us, which was this kind of anti-speech activism in the press. We saw it with COVID. We saw it with the laptop. This idea that this sort of information is too toxic to even get into. It's potential misinformation or disinformation. So we need to keep it from the public's eyes. And we saw that in the way that the tech platforms worked with the intel agencies here in America to have this sort of collusion to suppress and silence it. But then the media joined in as well because they refused to call out these tech platforms that censored the New York Post, that made it so you can't share this link. And I believe it really was the beginning of this new era of an even more dangerous form of suppression and media malpractice.
They've given us a shiny new label for censorship, fact-checking. It's an Orwellian term, dressed up, to make us feel safe as cherished voices are silenced in the name of unsafety and untruth. But who are these gatekeepers, and what happens when the truth no longer fits within their curated narrative?
Dear Mr. President, my name is Michelle Skiao, and I'm a retired educator. I wish to share with you the negative impact of censorship on our children. Their curiosity and creativity are being stifled due to the dogmatic and rote learning methods that are instituted. I wish to thank you for all you are doing for we the people.
Insane amount of censorship that got us to this point. Got us to this point where, most of our new generation doesn't know what men or women are. 10% of the young kids are on OnlyFans. All this nonsense that basically cornered our youth into this woke mindset. That's what censorship is. So what this message is, President Trump, is I am pleading with you to do what you can in your power to ban censorship in the United States of America forever. I mean, it shouldn't even be a question because we have a First Amendment, but it seems like our First Amendment's not enough when it clearly says in there that we have freedom of press, freedom of speech. I think it's time, President Trump, and I beg that you put what needs to be put in place to ban censorship forever and give us the power, your freedom fighters, your truth tellers, to get this information out so we could win this war on the battlefield of information.
The mechanisms of control are multifaceted, driven by people, power, and profit. Media consolidation has turned the press into a corporate machine, with 6 companies owning nearly everything we watch, read, and hear. A single phone call from an advertiser can kill a story, as seen in 2018, when a major outlet scrapped an expose on a pharmaceutical giant under pressure from its ad department. In the digital realm, algorithms are the new gatekeepers, programmed to prioritize untrustworthy sources like legacy media or government voices, demoting dissent and choking its reach. Shadow banning, the silent filter's sharpest tool, limits a post's visibility without notifying the user, targeting both conservative and progressive voices depending on the platform's priorities. The result is a curated reality where only approved ideas thrive. When the internet was first developed, many people had high hopes that it would become a sort of digital commons, a place where people could gather and freely exchange information, sort of like a giant public library. As we all know, that is not what became of the internet. As soon as corporations figured out just how lucrative this new frontier would be, the project was poisoned and it became just another tentacle of the modern market. In today's modern internet, all of our activity and information passes through the hands of private companies who have final say over what is accessible, visible, and permissible on the internet. People tend to forget that Google is not some universal public utility. It's part of a giant company that exists within the internet. When you're engaging with a Google property like YouTube, your right to free speech is checked at the door, whereas your physical world is controlled by your country's government. Your digital life is ruled by massive corporation and a handful of absurdly wealthy individuals. It is against the interests of these companies and billionaires to allow the free exchange of information on their platforms. Instead, sites like YouTube and Twitter are meticulously curated in order to mediate the conversation and most effectively monetize our traffic.
Dear Mr. President, I come to you not with anger, but with concern. As an American who values truth, transparency, and freedom, the First Amendment is not just ink on parchment. It's the foundation of our liberty. Yet today, we see censorship rising under the guise of safety and misinformation. When voices are silenced, not by debate, but by deletion, we don't protect democracy, we unravel it. Free speech means we may not always agree, but we always get to speak. Mr. President, I ask you to stand boldly for the rights that built this nation, because once free speech is gone, there's nothing left to protect us.
YouTube tells you what to watch next, and it's always videos that will make the money, the ones from big channels, videos that are monetized and highly shareable. Same with Twitter and Facebook. You're served tailored ads and recommendations that align with what those companies want you to engage with. This is the problem in a nutshell. In a world where the internet is a necessity for most people, where our news is online, our shopping, our education, does it seem appropriate that these corporations operate almost entirely outside the control of governing bodies and the general populace? Perhaps it's time to consider a new Internet Bill of Rights to protect reasonable speech online. The Internet at this point is essentially a public utility based solely on its necessity in modern life. Sites like YouTube and Facebook are essentially monopolies. There are no real alternatives, but these companies are not regulated like monopolies. Take your local water company, for example. It's a public utility and everyone is served at the same level. If the water utility were run like Facebook, they could divert water away from undesirable areas and towards certain other areas that have somehow earned their favor in opaque ways. We're still very new to the internet and especially social media. The World Wide Web has only really existed since 1990, and Facebook has only been around since 2000 for the massive amount of transformative change that has occurred in the past 30 years has vastly outpaced our understanding of what the internet could be. By now, it should be clear that the internet will be the dominating factor of modern life for the foreseeable future, and we need to take it seriously. We need to make plans for how to ensure that the internet doesn't simply become a propaganda tool to be wielded by massive corporations that are free from oversight. Whether this means transforming the internet into a public utility or building an entirely new monetized alternative to the corporate internet is up for debate. But it's certainly something we need to consider. Just as libraries serve as an effective public institution, allowing for the democratization of learning a public alternative to the internet as it currently exists, could democratize the flow of information in our digital age, free from the coercion of private interests, manipulated news feeds, and targeted advertising. There's another factor to consider. While multi-billion-dollar corporations are the main driver of internet curation and censorship in America, many of these companies have lucrative contracts with government agencies, including the CIA. Sometimes there will be actual instances of government censorship in the United States.
They have everything right there within the research community. They can pull an expert, technology, something that's out in the future and develop it within that DARPA system that would cost 10 times as much for somebody in the private world to do. At the end of that 5 years, 2004, both of them breaking the 8 numbers, which are this occult ritualistic mentality these people have. What happened was they shut down the LifeLog project over at DARPA, a military project looking at social media communications of the people, not just of America, but across the world, under the auspices that we need to have a handle on conversations across the world from this location here in the United States. Okay, February 4th, 2004 at noon, Facebook is incorporated. Now, the story is that Zuckerberg created this over at Harvard and everybody else came in and did all their stuff. At the end of the day, what happened is that he didn't make it. It cost $500 million. He's supposedly sitting over there as a college student at Harvard with a couple of other buddies creating this social media platform. Then the other thing is this: Zuckerberg, when he creates this thing, day one, they got money in there. And it's not insignificant money. Where's the money coming from? They're getting contracts behind the scenes for social media development and mining, mapping of people in the communications within social media. Facebook, day one, is making money because it's got government contracts tracking you guys. But it's not just one thing. When DARPA was looking at this whole field, everything involved there, they were also looking at other platforms. So the question is, how much behind the scenes is going on at YouTube? What are the real history of YouTube? What facilities are they using? What's underneath the facilities on the surface that everybody sees on top of? There's nothing really going on. What was underneath in those floors and those locations that they miraculously got to purchase? Who gets, and by the way that those data engines, search engines work, communication systems work, they have to be able to go in and kind of push some people, puff them, and tone other people down and make the algorithms work a certain way. And that's exactly what's been happening. So now we have this question. When you come after who's choking down the conversation and affecting our right of free speech in these supposedly open pathways within certain guidelines, what's happened within the social media is that supposedly it was private, and so there was no media control standpoint for like the FCC handling these communications, and so they could do whatever they wanted to. So here's the question I have for your audience. When Facebook is controlling what you have to say, is it really Facebook or is it somebody behind the scenes? Who had the authority? Was there a congressional hearing? Was it the president? Was it some communications group? Was it some shadowy secret handshake group, shadow government, that had the authority to give Mark Zuckerberg something that cost the American taxpayer at a bare-ass minimum $500 million?
The CIA and the military-industrial complex have long waged a sort of psychological campaign to manufacture consent among the American public. The Department of War became the Department of Defense. Every action the U.S. takes abroad is in the name of national security, even when we're meddling in tiny nations that could never do anything to harm us, even if they wanted to.
Today we face a very different kind of war, not with tanks, but with algorithms. Social media giants steeped in Marxist undertones have become gatekeepers of thought, censoring the very voices that seek to restore sanity and sovereignty. Mr. President, we are the new mainstream, the podcasters, truth tellers, and digital town criers. If you truly believe the pen is mightier than the sword, now is the time to wield it. Craft the executive order that levels the playing field and protects the First Amendment from big tech's iron grip. We're ready, our mics are hot, just don't leave us muted. Respectfully, Laura Eisenhower.
Censorship is not simply a matter of restricting access to content critical of the status quo. It also entails promoting material that's designed to reinforce that status quo, to manufacture a sense of patriotism, American exceptionalism, and fear of the unknown. We need to be aware of the extent to which the powers that be are influencing the content we consume online, and that those powers are not only government agencies, but also powerful corporations that benefit from our country's warlike nature.
Dear Mr. President, you know that you're being lied to by big tech when they say that they're not censoring. They're absolutely still censoring Christians and conservatives like me, who had the most watched Trump videos back in 2015. When they saw that we could influence the population, they really clamped down on the control, and they have not changed. The algorithm is still working against us.
Dear Mr. President,
My name is Tom Althouse, the author of The Matrix. The court systems are corrupt in this country. The judges are bought. The attorneys are bought. They brag about getting away with theft and how much I'm worth. This is America, not a third world country. We need you to fix it. We need you to go ahead and give the rights back and due process guaranteed to our citizens. I've had enough. Help us. Make a difference. Enough of this. Get our rights back.
Dear Mr. President, my name is Dylan Lewis Monroe, creator of the Deep State Mapping Project and host of the podcast New Templars. From 2019 to 2025, I have been banned on Shopify, Facebook, Instagram, MailChimp, Patreon, Twitter, YouTube, Square, Discord, Linktree, and TikTok. These bannings have devastated my business and set us back by decades from where we would have been had we not been banned. And some of these bans were simply for posting positively about President Trump.
Dear Mr. President, I am Bruce Poppy of Unpopular Viewpoint on Rumble and Bruce Poppy Show on YouTube. Censorship over the last several years has been egregious. The censorship problem has to be solved. It's one of the foundational principles of our country is free speech. We should be able to talk about these things.
Dear Mr. President, my name is Jason Q from the Rumble channel We Not Me. I would like to personally redress my grievances on the current censorship fight that all of us face today. I have been blocked from posting facts and documents to all people in order for them to make their own personal decisions on what is the truth. We don't want to influence anyone. We just want to bring truth to power and that power delivered back to we the people where it rightfully belongs. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
President Trump, I hope you hear this message. I'm coming to you today not as a voter, but as someone who believes in the United States Constitution. Digital tech tyrants are still censoring massive amounts of Americans across the country. It's time that we end this technocratic digital tyranny that is happening upon the American people. I'm calling for an Internet Bill of Rights, something that fortifies our constitutional rights to express our minds, our ideas, and our voices, no matter what our political affiliation is online. I hope that you hear this message and I hope that we can take prompt action to end this digital tyranny today.
Dear Mr. President, we are with the Time Is Now podcast.
Back in 2021, before YouTube deleted our channel, they deleted 107 of our videos.
We thankfully were able to archive those videos before they were deleted. However, we were left deplatformed until we finally rebuilt here on Rumble.
2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17 says, the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. In other translations, there says there is justice. There's liberty. There was no liberty given to us. We ask for justice, for liberty.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Hello, Mr. President. This is Mark Abrahams from the News Treason Channel 17 platform and the Fake News 7NY platform. Censorship has always been a problem in the media, especially since big business took us over and they've gone from journalism to editorialism. But I found more censorship on the streets from the people because nobody can have a civilized conversation anymore. So evidently, when you speak to people, all you get is shouted down instead of having a normal conversation and even agreeing to disagree. That's a big problem that we all have to address. Thank you for your time, Mr. President. You're doing a great job.
Dear Mr. President, in light of your executive orders affirming that there are only two genders and protecting the First Amendment, how can the state of Michigan continue to prosecute me? I'm Christine Geiger, owner of Studio 8 Hair Lab in Traverse City, Michigan. One Facebook post on my business page, and I was charged with 3 counts of discrimination by the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, even though I never denied service to a single person. I lost my business, my livelihood, and my reputation, all for words. The First Amendment was not written to protect safe speech. It was written to protect the speech others wanted to silence. If they can destroy me for speaking, no American is safe. And if we don't stand now, there won't be anyone left to hear. They tried silencing me, but I'm not done speaking.
Dear Mr. President, I'm Dr. Layla Ali, and I host the De-Prescribing Pharmacist podcast. Right now, censorship is out of control. When it comes to health, free speech is silenced. Meanwhile, pharmaceutical ads are running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What does that mean? It means people are suffering because simple, effective solutions are being buried. Instead of learning about natural approaches that truly heal, they're handed expensive pharmaceutical drugs made in a laboratory that keep them sick. Why is this still happening? It's time to break the digital chains. Let truth, health, and freedom rise again.
Senator J.D. Vance's assertion during the 2025 CBS vice presidential debate that censorship is the greatest threat to American democracy reflects a growing concern about big tech's role in shaping public discourse. Supported by examples like the 2020 Hunter Biden story suppression and COVID-19 content removals, Vance's claim highlights how content moderation can restrict free expression and erode trust in democratic processes. While censorship indeed poses a significant challenge, its designation as the singular greatest threat overlooks other pressing issues like voter suppression and disinformation. Nevertheless, Vance's focus draws attention to the need for greater transparency and accountability in tech platforms' practices.
I believe that we actually do have a threat to democracy in this country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens, and it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation. I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40 years. I'm really proud, especially given that I was raised by two lifelong blue-collar Democrats, to have the endorsement of Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, lifelong leaders in the Democratic coalition. And of course, they don't agree with me and Donald Trump on every issue. We don't have to agree on every issue, but we're united behind a basic American First Amendment principle that we ought to debate our differences. We ought to argue about them. We ought to try to persuade our fellow Americans. Kamala Harris is engaged in censorship at an industrial scale. She did it during COVID. She's done it over a number of other issues. And that, to me, is a much bigger threat to democracy than what Donald Trump said when he said that protesters should peacefully protest on January the 6th.
Then there's the censorship we inflict on ourselves. Cancel culture has weaponized outrage, turning dissent into a social death sentence. Their fear of being labeled racist, sexist, or just wrong silences voices before they even speak. The media amplifies this, framing disagreement as danger, narrowing the Overton window, the range of ideas we're allowed to discuss. Teachers avoid tough topics, writers self-edit, and society conforms, leaving us in a world where safety feels more valuable than truth. The chilling effect ripples through us all. The consequences of this censorship are profound. It's not just about limiting free speech. It's about manipulating public opinion, influencing elections, and undermining the republic itself. The 2016 U.S. presidential election was a wake-up call, revealing the immense role of social media in shaping what people believe. In 2020, claims about voter fraud, true or false, were buried or banned as MIS and misinformation before facts could be fully vetted. Platforms claimed they were protecting the republic, but for many it felt like control, not clarity, eroding trust in the gatekeepers. When voices are muted, we lose more than individual rights. We lose our collective ability to confront uncomfortable truths. We lose the chance to evolve. Yet, in every era, there are those who refuse to be silenced. Across America, a digital rebellion is rising. Ordinary people, bloggers, creators, and citizens bypassing the gatekeepers to reclaim the public square. The voices that stand against censorship are often the ones who change the world. Journalists uncovering corruption, artists pushing boundaries, activists fighting for justice. You'll now hear more voices from across the nation. They are not politicians. They are not the elites. They are the new media for truth.
I guarantee we're going to hold our end of the battlefield, sir, and I thank you, applaud you for everything that you're doing. Time is of the essence. The people are still suffering, still dying, and again, not only have we been suppressed, but we've been targeted. I've received death threats, assassination attempts. They even stole my daughter, but I'm still here. We don't plan on going away. And again, just applaud you for everything you're doing. Thank you, sir.
I have been heavily censored on other people's podcasts, and my own podcast has been suppressed. I want to thank you for bringing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in and Maha, because it's so important that people know that there is hope for those who have been injured. Thank you.
Dear Mr. President, my name is Mark Atwood. In 2020, I stood up online and I got censored left, right, and center for standing up for freedom against COVID and all the nonsense. And 2 YouTube channels got taken down without warning for medical misinformation. I got PayPal taken down, Linktree taken down, I got blocked off Facebook. It was outrageous because I couldn't get my message out and they kept knocking me down, knocking me down, knocking me down. I even wrote a poem, which you can see the title of there, which I think is self-explanatory. And also in this book, there's a poem, there you are, the best is yet to come. This book is called God Wins, because that's what's happening. God wins. We've stood and held the line for you, with you, and God bless you. Thank you for everything. Good night.
Dear Mr. President, we love you so much and appreciate everything you are doing for our country. I am Melissa, Red Pill the World. We are joining together to ask you to help us to get our freedom of speech back so we can continue to help support you. Thank you, Mr. President. From Melissa, Red Pill.
I am Nancy Addison, Organic Healthy Life, and on the last 5 or 6 years, I have been horribly censored for speaking what I believe is the truth on holistic natural remedies and healthy living. And I do not believe that this is free speech.
Dear Mr. President, this is Scott from TruthStream. We're told that most of our censorship problems are coming directly from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Anything you can do about this problem is greatly appreciated. It doesn't just impact us, it impacts you as well. Thank you.
To date, I have lost 7 Facebook accounts, 2 Instagrams, 2 Twitters at the purge, my TikTok channel, my YouTube channel, and BitChute just now not work in the UK. I've been actively trying to wake up my local community for over 2 decades now, and I will never stop until we win, until God wins. Thank you for everything you do and everyone involved. You know who you are. Where we go one, we go all.
Dear Mr. President, how you doing? My name's Jordan Clark, and I hope to meet you one day. But hey, in the meantime, we got a serious problem. The censorship is absolutely horrific. Since 2020, maybe even before that, I've been censored on Instagram. I've been deplatformed, censored beyond belief on TikTok, Facebook. I'm sure you're well aware of this, but what's getting out of control is obviously our ability to have free speech on the internet. And Mr. President, I truly hope you'll address this. I truly hope we can come out with an Internet Bill of Rights. I hope we can eventually speak our mind freely in this amazing country where we live by the First Amendment. Thank you.
Dear Mr. President, my name is Kevin Pasco, aka the Buzzer Guy, with my beloved wife Karen, who paid the ultimate price on the 17th with her passing, all while fighting the evil cabal and their corruption and censorship. During the COVID pandemic, we lost all our platforms, our YouTube channels, our Facebook, and Twitter accounts.
Dear Mr. President, I know you value truth and integrity. I know you speak truth, and I just wanted you to know our truthful voices here in Canada and around the world are being silenced. We are being silenced with incredible regularity. We know you can help, dear Mr. President. Please help us with the censorship. Thank you so much.
Dear Mr. President, in a world brimming with diverse voices, free speech stands as the cornerstone of human progress and liberty. Without the freedom to express our thoughts, be they popular or controversial, societies descend into echo chambers of conformity, stifling creativity and breeding tyranny. Free speech isn't just a right, it's the lifeblood of democracy. For in its absence, silence becomes the greatest oppressor. Thank you.
So I had to deal with the 2020 censorship, and I had to really balance the fine line of my channel, and I'm one of the few channels that survived the purge, but I'll tell you that it's still bad. The censorship is still bad. Don't kid yourself. It's still happening today. And it's not as strong as it was in 2020 to 2024, but it's still there. You still can't talk about certain select group, people, things, certain words set off the AI bill. It's just ridiculous. It needs to stop. This is not
This is not America, and we're living like this.
Dear Mr. President, my name is Brad Olson. I have been the victim of social media censorship on numerous occasions, especially around the time of COVID. We can never let this happen again. The reason we have the First Amendment is because it's the most important. Thank you for protecting it.
Mr. President, my name is Gila Jed, and the censorship was very frustrating, and we are appealing to you to do something definitive about it.
In 2023, a whistleblower's leak about government overreach didn't break on CNN or the New York Times. It started with a lone blogger, amplified by thousands on 10th independent creators, funded by readers and listeners, are proving that truth doesn't need a corporate stamp to spread. From courtrooms to the streets, Americans are fighting back. In 2024, a landmark lawsuit accused a tech giant of systemic censorship, igniting a national debate. Grassroots movements are demanding accountability, reminding us that free speech isn't a gift, it's a right we must defend. The battle for free expression is not a fight of the past, it's a battle of the present and the future. It's not just against the government or corporations, but against an entire system that seeks to control what we think, hear, and believe. The silent filter thrives in shadows, but it falters when we shine a light. The path forward demands transparency from platforms, courage from storytellers, and vigilance from us all. We need alternative platforms for information, decentralized, community-driven, and free from corporate influence, where voices can thrive without fear of suppression. Every post, every story, every voice is a weapon against the filter. In an era where the free flow of information faces unprecedented challenges, censorship has emerged as a formidable adversary to democratic discourse. Amid this murky landscape, Mel Carmine, an international podcaster and entrepreneur based in Cape Canaveral, Florida, has proposed bold and creative solutions to awaken the public and counter the pervasive threat of censorship. Through his annual Quantum Summit and a visionary proposal to write directly to the President of the United States, Carmine seeks to enlighten, empower, and mobilize citizens to reclaim their voices. This analysis explores Carmine's strategies, their significance in the fight against censorship, and the challenges they face in a digital age where control over information is both subtle and systemic. Mel Carmine, known for his advocacy of the digital assets like XRP, has leveraged his platform to address censorship through the annual Quantum Summit, a high-profile event held in Cape Canaveral, Florida. The inaugural summit, which took place on June 8 to 9, 2024, at the Staying Alive Wellness Center, that centralized media and tech platforms suppressed dissenting voices under the guise of combating misinformation. Despite its promise, the Quantum Summit faces limitations in addressing censorship's scale. Its reach remains niche compared to the global influence of tech giants like Meta, Google, and YouTube. Carmine's recognition that this did not seem enough underscores the Hydra-like nature of censorship, where silencing one channel often leads to new forms of suppression elsewhere. Acknowledging the summit's limitations, Carmine proposed a more direct approach on his podcast, writing to the President of the United States, whom he describes as the most powerful and bravest man on earth.
I can write incredible emails. I want to write the most amazing email ever, like basically the American people are demanding to see arrests at this point because we have the proof beyond a shadow of a doubt. If we were to put together a really cool email, but that's send the email because that email will never get sent, but turn it into an audio and put it all over the internet and have the patriots just move it out there. Okay. Wow. I mean, like, let it spread out there like crazy until it gets to Donald Trump and let them know the American people want to see fucking arrests. The people of the world want to see arrests. The freedom of speech on social media needs to be fully restored. We have a word to get out. And if we're being stifled, we can't get that word out. Our word is more important right now than mainstream media.
There is no free speech on social media, and social media is the town square. It is the media. It is the truth right now. And we still aren't even close, Mel. We're not even close.
The enemy, the people who are in the communist movement, okay, they are willing to die for their cause. You and I have made a commitment to put our lives on the line, including Elisa, including Maureen, okay, over there in Costa Rica. You know why? Because The only way you get to beat this enemy is you got to get the message across that, hey, you're willing to die for your cause, motherfucker. I'm willing to die for mine. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose, and I ain't losing.
The enemy is committed. The enemy's like, hey, I'm in this fight. I want to make sure that the United States falls into full-blown communism, Marxism, socialism, because this is the last domino fall. This domino falls, the rest of the world is absolutely fucked. You stand no chance. Within minutes, there'll be tanks rolling through the streets with dictatorship at full volume, okay? So this fight is not only our fight, it's your fight. It's the fight for your children. There's a chance that if the enemy wins, we are on the front line. We'll be the first ones to go. You understand? We're done. We're dead. They're coming for us immediately, okay? Because according to them, we're the troublemakers.
Yeah, because
we are their version of the brown shirts. They're really the brown shirts, but to them, we are the brown shirts. Okay, and so the bottom line is we go first. They're going to eliminate us immediately. So they got to get the message that Mel Carmine, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die on my terms. If Stu's going to die, Stu's going to die on his terms. You know why? Right. Because we're real men with real balls. We still got some testosterone left. Capiche?
I capiche.
This is the biggest weapon in the world, not this. They're afraid of this. Because if the Mark Altwoods, and I know you'll agree with me, are allowed to grow because the audience says so, not the algorithms. The audience says Mark Altwood is good enough for 10 million followers. And then when they subscribe and the ring bell, all of that stuff works, that they get notified, and you're talking to 10 million people and you're telling the truth, that's what they're afraid of.
I got my PayPal account closed down. I got my Linktree account closed down. I've been locked out of Facebook for 3 years. I got my Telegram has been sent. It's just endless censorship. And I wrote a poem in the book that I wrote because I produced a load of poems over the years. And this is the poem I wrote. And the video of that had millions of views. And every time YouTube gives me a strike, I post it back up on X or somewhere like that. Because
it's just a way of getting even, right? They don't realize how powerful we are, Mark. They really underestimate the power of we the people worldwide, not just in the United States. There's patriots rising worldwide, and I think that they're going to get the message this time around because of who's in office.
And if I'm wrong and you're wrong, then we're all fucked anyway. So we might as well
die on our feet. And if we're going to die, there's a choice. You can either die on your feet fighting, or you can fight, or you could be in a fetal position like a little bitch. Yeah, that's not who Mel Carmine is, and I'm sure that's not who Mark is either.
Do you think that we're blind? You don't think we see what's going on around us? You don't think we understand that a lot of Americans are in a zombie-like state because of your psychotropic drugs, your petroleum-based drugs that don't work, that are intentional, designed to keep everybody in a zombified state. People look like hell because the food they eat is unhealthy. You think we're just going to let this just continue on like for eons and nobody's going to do something about it? There are some men like myself that have stood up, that are standing up, and we're not going to stop until someone loses, until someone wins. You are making the biggest mistake of your life to underestimate America. You never, never, ever, under any circumstances, underestimate America. We want medicine. We don't want drugs. We want clean air. We don't want polluted air. We don't want chemtrails. We want all the technologies you're hiding. We know what you have in Wright-Patterson. We know what you have in Utah. We know it all. And you know that America and the entire world would literally catapult 1,000 years ahead of where it's at right now if you were to release 10% of that. But you didn't, because you want to hold humanity back. You want to have control. But control ends right now. Let me tell you a story about censorship that should make every American mad as hell. My wife Amber and I own a healing center called StayingAlive.com in Cape Canaveral. Now, let me be clear. The technology we use is not a medical device. One day we decided to share some of our most powerful testimonials. Real people, real results. One man in particular, Ray, was on camera in tears. He had lung cancer, prostate cancer, and diabetes. Every medication the doctors gave him failed. Nothing worked. Then he found our technology. Within weeks, his cancer markers hit 0 and his diabetes became undetectable.
Hi, my name is Ray, and I have a story to tell about cancer. Not only did I have prostate, I had lung cancer. They just kept popping pills in me, one after another. I wanted to live. I have a family, I have children, I have grandchildren, I I have great-grandchildren. I want to see all of them grow up. About this time, I was hearing about scalar technology, and I started going 2 nights a week. So I continued to go every week. So I went back, got my CAT scan again, and it came back and showed nothing. It was gone. I'm cancer-free. Scalar technology is one of the reasons why.
I have a binary hyperplasia of the prostate, and that will keep you up at night. Just coming here over the last several weeks, I have experienced an ability to actually urinate. It has done a certain amount of heating to my urinary tract that has relaxed it and enabled it to work more efficiently.
We put that compelling testimony into a commercial and ran it on YouTube. We paid to promote it. What happened? Censored, shadow, banned, suppressed. For what? For telling the truth, for giving hope. We ran ads for months targeting Merritt Island, Cocoa Beach, Rockledge, and Cape Canaveral. We spent good money. Yet people kept calling saying, Mel, we live on YouTube and we never saw your ad. Not once. Over and over again, same complaint. Then I saw a video from a holistic doctor who said it plain and simple. Stop wasting money on YouTube and Instagram ads. The tech giants aren't showing your content. They're sending bots to your site just to fake the traffic. You think you're reaching people, but you're not. That's what the medical mafia wants. Control the narrative, silence the alternatives, and keep people sick. This is one of many reasons why I was motivated to make this film, not to sell anything, but to expose what's really going on. This isn't just censorship. It's a war on truth. And unless we, the people, stand up and say enough is enough, we lose. I hope President Trump takes this issue seriously and fast. The future of health freedom depends on it.
It's in no way anything. There's nothing negative about it at all. It's just saying that vitamin D is very important to your immune system. So he publishes this and it gets pulled from LinkedIn. They literally said, we're pulling this down. It's been removed because it goes against our professional community policies. Like, sure, what the fuck does that even mean? This guy's a doctor. He's a fucking he's an MD. And
they're professional.
It's crazy.
Devil policy. I mean, I don't understand how evil can you not to be understood? There is evil in this world, and when you have someone recommending an upgrade procedure for quality health, and someone bans it, the people who bans that recommended upgrade for quality health is pure fucking evil. That's all you need to understand.
Carmine's invocation of the adage, modern problems require modern solutions, encapsulates his approach to censorship's complexity. The Quantum Summit leverages decentralized technologies like blockchain, which offer a framework for uncensored communication by distributing data across networks rather than central servers. For instance, platforms like X, which prioritize open discourse, have gained traction as alternatives to heavily moderated spaces, allowing voices sidelined by traditional media to thrive. Carmine's advocacy for XRP and the QFS aligns with this vision, as blockchain's transparency could theoretically underpin a censorship-resistant information ecosystem. The letter proposal, while ambitious, could be modernized to amplify its impact that rallies global support and bypasses bureaucratic filters. Such a strategy would align with the summit's technological focus, transforming a symbolic gesture into a scalable movement. Posts on X suggest growing public interest in decentralized solutions, with users praising platforms that resist corporate censorship, indicating a receptive audience for such an initiative.
My name is Mel Carmine. I'm a Sicilian immigrant, an international podcaster, an entrepreneur who lived the American dream. I've built from nothing and I fight for everything. I love this country with a passion born out of pure gratitude and fire. America is not just a land of ideas, a beacon, and today that beacon is under siege, Mr. President, not by foreign invaders, but by cabal-controlled platforms in Silicon Valley who silence the truth, suppress dissent, and manipulate the digital town square. Mr. President, we are many, podcasters, truth tellers, digital warriors. We're with you, but to win this fight, we need back our microphones. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, even Rumble. The apparatus of censorship is everywhere. They're not just ignoring us, they're mocking us. They're daring us to speak truth under threat of exile. I've studied communism, not in a classroom, but in real time, in real life. This is Marxism dressed up in Silicon Valley attire, and it must not be allowed to metastasize. Yes, we are decimating the fake news media by a lot, but we're not here for decimation. We're here for pulverization. We don't want them wounded. We want them erased from total control, vanished like smoke from the battlefield of public discourse. This isn't just about free speech. It's about American survivability. If we don't end censorship, we don't win, period. And Mr. President, you are the only man who could strike the pen that breaks their grip. We need a killer executive order, a task force, an unflinching tribunal to enforce real law, common law, constitutional law, laws that answer to our founding fathers, not the unelected tyrants of tech. We call on youth to authorize unannounced inspections of every major social media platform. We need teeth. We need fire. America needs accountability at the highest levels of law and order. With a stroke of a pen, you can decimate the digital gulag. We will be your army awaiting your command. We are not afraid. We are not weak. We are done being silent. Thank you, Mr. President. If this short video got to you and you listened this far, it was not by our doing, it was by the grace of God. America will not only survive, it will thrive. And we will create the healthiest, wealthiest Americans like never before. And the rest of the world will have no choice but to follow suit. The future looks bright.
Things are about to change. Why? Because people like you and people like me are demanding change, because the rules that were written for this planet that we're graduating out of no longer serve us correctly in this new planet that we're emerging into, this new reality, this new world, right? So the idea of reinforcing the First Amendment is a great idea, but I think really coming to senses on the whole thing and really looking at it from every conceivable angle, I think it's best that we also have a Bill of Rights that enforces the new First Amendment, for example, where if you are a private company, you can no longer censor free speech. Now, what kind of penalties are going to be in place? I hope there's going to be plenty. I hope they'll be so heavy, like $5 billion fines, that they're not going to be able to withstand the fines. They're not going to say, oh yeah, here's $5 billion, go away, and we'll keep censoring. They're not going to be able to handle that. And so if we have heavy duty fines, these are the new rules. Either abide by the new First Amendment, this is America, and it was founded on free speech, or you get the hell out of our country, period. If you rack up 2-3 fines, on the third strike or the fourth strike, we take over your company. I do believe that Donald Trump and his sons and daughters know a few programmers out there, and we can handle taking over a YouTube and running it flawlessly with no speed bumps, no algorithm bullshit, whatever.
The timing could not be any better. The fact that Donald Trump is moving in the same direction, getting ready to grab these social media tech giants by the balls and twist their nutsacks, couldn't be more welcomed as far as I'm concerned. What we need to do from this point forward is to make sure that this movie gets spread out far and wide so that everybody worldwide gets the message. And we depend on you, the people, to do that. And I will tell you this, we want God to protect you because you are the greatest president to ever step foot in the White House. We want to make sure America becomes the example of what could be and what will be. And we will not only make America great again, we will make the entire planet great for the first time ever in a very, very long time, maybe since the days of Atlantis. But it was a long time coming, and it takes great men, and it takes, I guess, them pushing us to the brink of total disaster for some of us to take action. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and my family And may God bless you, sir.
I've just been a kid by the side of the road, watching the world. Well, it's all just to show those we looked up to are not who they seem. Watching the world, well, it's all just to show those we looked up to are not who
See
they
what I mean?
seem.
I'm gonna fuck this up. Dave. Oh, Dave, you got me crazy now. Oh, you're gonna make me bleed. Dave, you're gonna have to be patient with me. There's gonna be a lot of takes. His guest. On his guest. See? Ah! Part of the option, part of the equation. See? Podcasters, smallcasters. The Constitution, while it was brilliant,
We don't